another good episode. But yeah, hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another one of our weekly, The World's Finest Assassin Gets Reincarnated in Another World. The title is so long, I stumble over my words. But yes, welcome to another World's Finest Assassin video. Thank you so much for clicking on the video. Today we're going to be talking all about episode 4, Plan of the Goddess. But before we get to the video proper, quick reminder if you haven't done so yet, to hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, set notifications to all, let all of AnyTube know that you are here. And without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into this thing. And yeah, so we pretty much start by meeting our new sort of member of the harem, I guess, Tarte. And Tarte is not introduced in the greatest way. And I don't mean that as though to say, like, the narrative is bad, like, it's bad writing. No, I mean that in the sense that she immediately is met with bad time. Like, the instant we meet her, it's her having been abandoned by her family, which, like, that sucks. But not just abandoned by her family, there's, like, a lack of food in her. Like, she is very malnourished by the time we first meet her. She is, like, skin and bones. Like, she looks like Augie back there. I mean, like, it just looks terrible. Nobody should have to look like Augie. I'm just saying. Sorry, my boy. I feel like I feel like I might be picking a bone there with you. I apologize, but nobody wants to look like Augie, especially when they're first introduced into a series, and Tarte very much is looking pretty rough. Like, Tarte is not looking very good at the start of the episode, and we find out essentially that where she's from, the lord of that, like, district or area, is kind of a douche. Like, we find out from Lugh that he's sort of like just kind of a tyrant, like that he has like a lot of like high taxes, and it makes a lot of the families make pretty rough decisions. And with Tarte's family, they essentially decide to just let her go, right? Like they only have so much food that they can give, so they pick the Tarte, and Tarte gets abandoned in the forest and is essentially going to be devoured by wolves. And it is pretty rough. It is a pretty rough introduction for Tarte, and I actually feel really bad for her. It's a genuinely, like, it's one of those starts where you do want to see them sort of like come back from the brink like that. Like, you want to see like how she can maybe like find her way back, and maybe recover from not only being, you know, malnourished, but also about to be eaten by wolves, which is not good. I don't know if you've noticed, but, you know, it's better to not be eaten by wolves. But yeah, it's definitely, I will say, the only thing about Tarte that I think is weird in regards to her character is how we see her at the beginning, where she's this really like small, malnourished character. We don't really know how old she is. And then when we next see her, it's like 2 years later, and she's like, well, she looks like that. Like, it's sort of, yeah, it's a bit of a leap, you know, to me, where I'm like, I don't understand how a character goes from that to that in the span of 2 years. That seems like kind of a stretch. And they stress that Lugh at this point is 12, right? So he has, I think, 6 more years until he meets the hero. And so he's got 6 years to complete his mission, right? But if Lugh is 12, how old is Tarte? You know, like, because that doesn't seem accurate to me. I was like, that seems weird. That character design does not match up. And neither does Lugh's, to be fair. Like, Lugh also does not look 12. Like, a lot of the characters just don't look their ages. And that's fine, right? It's an anime. I get it. But it's just something that I thought I'd point out, because I'm like, that's weird. That's weird. I don't know how I feel about that, but that's weird. That's weird. But yeah, like, I should stress too, like, the meeting between Tarte and Lugh is really cool. Like, I really like how these two first meet and interact with each other. Essentially, as I said, Tarte is about to meet a very bad end. Like, she's about to meet with a pack of ravenous wolves, when suddenly, from the brink comes Lugh, who basically appears, and he's ready to just whoopeth some ass, right? He appears, and it's Lugh versus the wolves in what is essentially a Sherlock Holmes, like, movie Sherlock Holmes meets SAO fight, right? Like, essentially, it's the fight, the kinetic energy of an SAO fight with the inner monologue of a Sherlock fight from like the Robert Downey Jr. movies. It's just sort of cool, like the way that he sort of like appears. He does the like create metal spell, so he has like these like metal gauntlets, and he starts whooping some ass, right? Like he's able to like sort of like dig deep into the wolves enough to sort of like sever spinal cords and crack skulls in order to basically deliver instant death, which I appreciate because I don't like seeing wolves and doggos meet bad ends. So I appreciate that Lugh is just like, I'm gonna make this shit quick. I appreciated that. But I will say too, like just the whole fight itself is really dope. Like it's not what I expected. Like it's not that the series has had bad action up until now. It really hasn't. But it's just, it was action that I wasn't expecting to be delivered in the way that it was. I would love if the series continues to do this. If the series continues to have Lugh have these sort of like inner monologues of what he's doing. It's very Sherlock Holmes, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I think it's really sick. I really enjoyed that a hell of a lot. But also, I was sort of surprised by the brainwashing that happens a little bit into the episode. Lugh, after he has the fight with the wolves, is talking with Tarte, and there's this conversation by fireside where he's like, hey, don't eat this porridge too quick, which does make sense. That is a thing, where if you're eating, like if you're malnourished and you get food, you shouldn't eat it very fast because your body will reject it because it hasn't had food in a while, so it's not sure what to do with that. So it'll just kind of throw, like your stomach will make you throw it back up, and you don't want that, right? So you just sort of want to eat your food slowly, and Lugh tells Tarte like, hey, this is porridge, don't eat it fast. If you eat it slowly, I'll give you another cup, but if you don't listen and you eat it fast, I won't give you anything else, right? So she's like, okay, and he's very strict. He's like, okay, who are you, how did you get here? She explains, you know, like, my family were a pack of assholes, I was eaten by a pack of wolves, you seem like a pack of a good time, you know, like by comparison. And so, you know, and Lugh is a good guy, right? Like, well, I want to say good guy. Lugh is he has a mission, he's going to fulfill it. He's a decent man. Like, he's a decent person. Because, like, we know the assassin he once was, who was very much not a good dude, but the version of him that we have now, where he's finally getting in touch with his emotions, like, he's finally realizing that he is allowed to be a person, as opposed to the killing machine he was in his past life. He is becoming better, but I don't know if I'd say he's a full-out good person. He's a person, you know? Like, Lugh is a guy. He does good things. He does bad things. But mostly, he's good. We'll say he's mostly good, right? Mostly good. And he asks her, like, do you think I'm a good person? And she says, yeah. We know that's not totally the truth. But he basically says all this stuff, and he gets her to, he says that he needs her, and all this crap, just to basically brainwash her, because he notices that, oh, she has mana, which is rare for people who aren't nobles. And Tarte, at some point during that conversation, says that she had a dream from the goddess that she was going to meet somebody really important, that she was going to have a really fateful meeting. And, of course, that's Lugh being like, I got it. Okay, she's sent here to help me. I gotta brainwash her into helping me. Which is, like, kind of twisted that was his thought process. Like, I have been delivered help. I will now freaking brainwash this person. Kind of intense. And this sort of does lead to them training together, right? Like, this leads to him saying, like, I need you, come with me. This makes, like, the fact that Lugh says he needs her is what gives Tarte, like, a reason to keep fighting. So Tarte ends up going with Lugh back to Lugh's home and becomes sort of his, like, personal assistant, right? Like, they say servant, but she's not really, like... She's a servant, but she's not, like, treated poorly, right? She's more like a personal assistant, right? And she just kind of helps Lugh. She gives him tea. She helps him, like, clean up his face after a meal. Like, she does all this stuff, right? She's essentially a maid, right? Like, that's what she is. She's a maid, right? So she's there to help out, like, clean up around the house, help out with chores and stuff, but I say assistant instead of maid because she's also training with Lugh. Lugh doesn't just need, like, a personal assistant. He needs somebody who can help him take down the hero, like, in a few years, right? So he's training Tarte in order to be better. Problem. Tarte is not great with a knife. And if you're an assassin, your knife's your best friend. So to not be able to train with a knife is an issue. However, she does have an aptitude with a spear / bow staff. And this is where, again, Lugh shows his ingenuity. Because Lugh is like, okay, so what we're having here is a fundamental issue where Tarte's skills do not match up to those of an assassin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cater my knowledge of what it means to be an assassin around her skill set. So we know that she has an aptitude for a spear / bow staff, right? So like that is one of her innate skills that she's given when she's born into this world, since we know that the people born into this world are given specific skills. So Tarte has significant aptitude with a spear / bow staff, right? So like I'm just gonna say spear from now on, but just know it's both, right? So she has a good aptitude with a spear. So Lugh, thinking quickly, is just like, okay, here's what we're gonna do. You need something that you can conceal, because if you're going to be an assassin, you can't exactly be walking around with a spear that's not very inconspicuous, right? In fact, that's quite conspicuous. So the idea was to give her sort of one of those spears that can like essentially assemble and deassemble, right? So like it looks almost like nunchucks for a second, but it's just because like essentially you whip it into this, like you whip it to the side and it becomes like a spear, and then you can also like deassemble it and you can hide it again, right? So you can assemble and unassemble like really quickly. And this essentially allows Tarte to be an assassin, because now we see how badass she is with the spear. We see the fact that it can conceal. It makes her actually a genuine threat out on the field, which is good. This is what we need, right? This is what we need out there, and to help Lugh eventually become the badass he needs to be to stop the hero. So ultimately, it ends on a good note. I should also say that there is something very interesting that happens this week in regards to the goddess, which, by the way, I'm going to toss this out there. The goddess, we all know, come here. We all know she's like evil, right? Like that's not a secret. Like you can pretty much tell, like from the opening and the way that they talk about her, like all this shit, like she's evil. Like something's gonna happen where she's gonna betray the team or some shit like that. Like she's not good. She's not good is what I'm trying to say. So I don't feel like I'm shocking anybody. I don't feel like I'm blowing any minds. She's not good, right? Like I think we all know that. So we see her, right, going to someone else and approaching them the same way she approaches Lugh, like way back when he was still human. Or, well, he is human now, but way back during his past life when he was still, like, an assassin back in our world, right? She approaches another person from our world who is, like, the world's greatest special armed forces, right? And she says that she needs him to beat the hero. And he's like, oh, you want me to reincarnate, blah, 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 right? Like, hell yeah, let's go, right? And that was about 40 years ago. So, when she checks in on him, he is now a NEET, which is hilarious. But when she checks in, she says, number 283 was reincarnated 40 years ago. Number 283, 40 years ago. That is alarming. So that means that there is bare freaking minimum, including Lugh, 284 people running around. Because if you include Lugh, 284, right? But that was 40 years ago. Like, number 283 was 40 years ago. So to me, I'm like, okay. There has to have been a lot more. Because if you're going to get 283 people, all with the same goal of beat the hero, right? And 283 was 40 years ago. I have to assume that there was a lot of people in between now and then, right? That Lugh wasn't just 284. He might be 284, but my guess is that he's probably not. So it's like, okay, shit. Like, what does that mean? Like, that's such a big twist. And, like, not twist, but that's a big reveal. The fact that there's other isekai people, right? It's starting to give me, like, slime vibes, where it's other people who have been isekai'd in the same way, right? That's interesting. It's interesting. That's all I'm saying, is that it's a very, very interesting thing. Everything with the goddess, I'm just like, keep mental notes of these things, because I'm sure they're going to probably pay off before the season is over. And we're only, like, 1/4 of the way through, or 1/3 of the way through this. So, shit's gonna get real, I assume. I'm just saying. But anyway, with all that said, outro. And that's gonna do it for today's video, everybody. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to boop that up snoot, share if you care, leave a comment down below, and of course, make sure that you hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and set notifications to all. Let all of AniTube know that you're here. And of course, before we go, as always, I have to give a big thank you to my wonderful masters who help support this endeavor. And of course, I want to give a special thank you to the Masters of Masters who help support us just that little bit more. And I have to give a big thank you to Izevi, Asaki VT, Elizabeth Just Elizabeth, JCran23, Jeremy P, Matt87 Eagle, Shadow Creative, Shiorans, Stephen G, Stevie W, Trapmaster, and Tristan G. Thank you all so much for being so freaking wonderful. I appreciate it. And if you want to hear your name shouted out at the end of these videos, or you want to see your name scrolling past the screen, go ahead and check out the link in the description to our Patreon page, or you can hit that join button right beside the sub button. And that also gets you a badge next to your name as well in the comments if you want people to know how cool you are. But yeah, I'd sincerely appreciate it. It is a great way to help this channel and keep videos coming out. I really appreciate it, everyone. And that is it for me. So you guys take care of yourselves, and of course, do clean your room. It's filthy.